You ever came across a comedian that in the beginning of their career they were okay. They maintained a good audience, good enough to where they could live off being a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, they explode in the time frame.
Literally or figuratively?
Well, figuratively, not literally.
Well, there goes my answer.
Well, okay. So, dig this. You have your Eddie Murphys. Eddie Murphy in the beginning of his career, guy was huge. Yep. Arguably the biggest comedian ever of all time to cross over into being an actor.
Yep.
And then we have Robin Williams, who sort of remained relevant throughout his actually it wasn't until he was like in his 30s that he really crossed over into like mainstream and made people aware of his comedy and everything. He was always popular as a comedian, but he didn't really cross over until into movies until he was like in his 30s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you have Richard Pryor, who did have movie success.
Yeah.
But later in his career faded out because one half because of his disease that he suffered from, and then his eventual death. And then you have Whoopi Goldberg, Chris Rock. Actually, there's a whole thing going on with Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle got an X amount to do comedy specials on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like $11 million for they got paid to do a comedy special on Netflix. You look at what those two have accomplished in their careers.
It's true.
You look at what they've accomplished. You look at Dave Chappelle and his $50 million contract that he turned down from Comedy Central just so that he could, find himself. He went and he found himself, and he actually lives as a hermit now. Yeah. He actually got sick and tired of living in Hollywood and actually moved out to a farm in the middle of Ohio.
Yeah, right.
He lives in the middle of Ohio, in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, the cost of living out here, I have all the amenities that I need. I got good internet. I've got wide open spaces. I don't need to live in Hollywood. I don't need that insanity in my life.
I mean, Hollywood's a great place, but nobody wants to live there. It's too crowded.
Yeah. And it's often full of people.
Yogi Berra.
And it's often also filled with people who are so full of themselves that you can't stand being around them for more than 5 minutes.
I didn't do the Yogi Berra quote right.
No, it's okay. Well, and then there's Chris Rock. Chris Rock, huge movie star in his time. Actually, his films have equated out to almost $3 billion overall in terms of what he's made.
It's not bad.
And then along comes Amy Schumer, who here's the thing. I find some of what Amy Schumer says pretty funny. I think she can be funny, but she demanded that she be given the same amount of money that Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock are being given.
Well, okay.
Here's the thing. Amy Schumer has done 2 comedy specials on Netflix. They both got middling reviews.
I mean, well,
and then
there's a notoriety thing.
And then she's done 2 films.
2
films that have done... Well, one film did good. Trainwreck was actually pretty good. I saw it. I thought it was pretty funny. And she did good. And then I saw Snatched with Goldie Hawn.
And then the other one was a train wreck, right?
I guess. Which one?
No, jokes.
Oh, okay. But anyway,
work with me. Come on.
You look at her social media influence and all that compared to Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, and they're each of them are like twice as influential or 3 times as influential, and they have a great track record behind them. Amy Schumer's track record is spotty because her show just got canceled after views declined sharply after the first season.
Ooh.
And then Dave Chappelle's show is just as popular as ever, and it's been off the air for more than 10 years.
Oh, it's been in syndication for
yeah, and it's just as popular. And if he came out tomorrow and said, I feel like doing a 3rd season of Chappelle's show, they'd throw money at him. They'd throw $100 million at him and say, do whatever the hell you want, man. We're on board.
Did you ever see Avatar: The Last Airbender?
The show or the shitty movie?
We don't talk about the shitty movie.
Okay, the show.
I will never be talking about the shitty movie.
Okay.
There's a scene where a bunch of people are like, oh man, it's the Avatar. And one guy is like losing his mind.
Convulses,
foams at the mouth and falls over. Half of the country becomes that guy.
When Dave Chappelle decides to do a third season of Chappelle Show. Exactly. And there's some...
You didn't think I was going anywhere with that, did you?
No, I got you. I got you on that. Okay, well, there's a comedian who I've been aware of for a long time. I remember when I first saw him, it was actually, to tie into Chappelle's show, he was actually one of Chappelle's show's writers, and he actually was an actor on there as well and acted in a lot of their skits.
All right.
Bill Burr. Bill Burr... in his early part of his career, experienced pretty good audience interaction. The audience liked him a lot, but now he's blown up. And here's the thing: Bill Burr is almost 50 years old. He is 48 years old, and he is experiencing the precipice of his career. He's got a big podcast that he does every week. He's got, or it's every week or bi-weekly, I forget, but Bill Burr's got a huge podcast. He's got, his concert tours are almost sold out all the time, and he gets Netflix specials and all these other specials that he, Comedy Central specials and everything, and he's got a very successful show on Netflix, F is for Family, which I've watched, is very funny. Check it out, by the way, if you actually like some really hard, really hard-edged family comedy. It's actually pretty funny.
All right.
With a lot of things, and it's actually very funny with a lot of others. But here recently, people have been going back and looking at his old stuff and been seeing he's been doing this for years and years, and only now are people starting to...
People have figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, people are just like, damn, this guy's actually very funny. So
what's the line? Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Exactly. So years and years ago, I think it was... This was actually when George W. Bush was still in office. I think it's like 2004. Ooh. This is after the Chappelle Show went off the air, and Bill Burr was pretty much left without a job, and he just decided, hey, I'm gonna go on comedy tours again.
Sure, why not?
So here he is, 2004, 2005, and
you can tell that this is either incredibly recent or very old, because this is sponsored by Shaq.
Well, actually, no. That's not actually.
Okay.
It's not actually Shaq. It's actually
okay. Good.
The name of the original website was Comedy Shack.
Okay.
And right now it's actually Code Black Comedy is what it's called now.
All right.
And Bill Burr went on their stage during one of their big shows, and let's just watch and let's.
All right.
Actually, there's another one on here I might click on after. But anyway, this is Bill Burr. How you know the N-word is coming?
Oh dear.
Enjoy.
Don't tell me what to do.
Now I'm talking to the audience.
Don't tell them what to do.
I had a real weird experience last time I came down here. I was in Nashville, right? Sort of an awkward social situation, right? I'm sitting at this bar. There's this white dude sitting like 2 stools away. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. And that Terrell Owens story was in like sports news. So I try to make conversation. I'm like, man, look at this guy. This guy just signed a $40 million contract. He's already bitching, man. How much money do you need to make?
And the dude looks at me. He's like, you know what I say? And then he looked over his shoulder, which I now know is the telltale sign that the N-word is coming, and it's coming hard. Oh, yeah, it's not going to be pronounced with the A. It's going to be with the R. And he hit the R. He, like, stuck the landing. There was, like, a dismount. Clan members high-fiving in the background.
Wow.
Wave.
I expected this to go
Just
much
out
worse.
Of nowhere. So now, immediately, I'm looking over my shoulder like, dude, what the hell are you doing?
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? I'm waiting for, like, this hail of black fists to come raining down on top of me. I hate when people do stuff like that. That dude made me part of, like, a potential ass-kicking that I had nothing to do with.
Yeah?
You don't do shit like that. He just had that word, hot potato, just threw it in my lap. Trying to pass it down to the next white dude. I hate when people do that, man. You know, it's like, dude, feel me out first.
Good expressions in comedy, very
Ask
important.
some questions. Do you like to fish? Have you ever fucked your sister?
Whoa!
I start rattling off answers, then you go old school. You give me a pamphlet, you tell me about your militia. Don't just dive into it. That dude was one of the angriest people I ever met. I should have known that word was coming because he was just watching Terrell, right? Anytime I would bring up, look at man, that guy's talking trash, he would just like flip out. He won't shut up! You know, those people get like so mad they're not even looking at you. Their eyes are up. Just shut up and play the game!
Yep. I know that expression. I've seen it
funny?
several
I don't
times.
even like Terrell, but now I love the guy. Because every time I see him talking trash, I know this idiot in Nashville is just losing his mind, like kicking over his kitchen TV. Shut the fuck up! I like violence, man. I am. Not like when it happens to me or if I see it live. I like watching it on TV, you know? Watching people, you know, get attacked by animals.
Ah, yes, Schadenfreude.
Just get blasted in the face or something, you know? Like, I'm a huge sports fan. You know my favorite, like, moment of, like, the last year was in sports? That Detroit Piston, Indiana Pacer bench clearing brawl. Wasn't that great?
Oh,
That shows you
man.
how dated this is, because that was a long time
Yes,
ago.
it
Things
was.
I've ever seen. I was so confused when I watched ESPN that night. They were like, that was absolutely disgraceful. Basketball fans, they just must be a... I'm sitting there looking like, I'm a basketball fan. I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching out-of-shape civilians get the shit kicked out of them by professional athletes. It was fascinating. And I think as sports fans, we kind of had it coming, right? Because how many times you gone to a game, right? You got a little too drunk. You started screaming at some dude on the field who could clearly kick the shit out of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you saw him in the parking lot, you'd be like, hey, can you sign my stamp collection? I think you're awesome. You get in the game, you're all drunk. You're like, you suck, buddy. You're a piece of shit. And they're always calling him up. Come on up here. No, come on up here. Well, they came up there.
Well,
They did, and they kicked the shit out of everybody. It was great. It was like a cartoon. You're like beating up whole rows of people at once, like...
God,
I
in the
loved
shoulder.
every second. I love how Ron Artest punched the wrong guy. Wasn't that great?
Oh.
He taught that dude a valuable lesson in life. When shit goes down, you don't just stand there like you're watching a movie like, wow, it's coming right at me. Must be in 3D or something. That was a 5'6", 110-pound white dude, had an angry 6'10" black dude running right at him. That had to have been in his top 3 nightmares all time. Getting his dick cut off and being lit on fire. He just stood there.
It's true. He did.
Like trying to explain himself.
did just
Well,
stand
I
there.
still have the liquid in my cup, so there's no way I could have... An idiot.
Okay.
all right, his delivery is great.
Bill's delivery is top notch. All right. Actually, there is a little bit that he did before he came, right as he came out.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have included it in this, but he actually came out and he's like, "Wait,
Dude,
don't get aggressive, Chico. Come on."
sorry, I probably hit one of your sore spots.
Oh, it's okay, buddy. Chico's having to have injections. Of fluids and
every
it's-
day. And
every day.
So
and
there's certain spots where he's a little bit sore.
Yeah. So okay, Bill Burr actually, his delivery is so good, and his social awareness is actually like top notch as well, because like he comes out and he's like walking out on stage, and keep in mind this is a majority black comedy show, and he's like, hey, how's everybody doing? Was this too broad of a transition? I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, 9, 10 black dudes in a row, and then like the whitest dude in the world comes out on stage. Yeah, I know. I'll give your eyes a minute to adjust.
No, yeah. You got to
see-
know how to read the crowd.
Yeah, well, his social awareness and also, friggin' dude, the guy is a hero in a lot of comedians' minds, because you know those crowds that are just balls to the wall, not having it that night.
Oh, yeah.
And they boo everyone on stage. I mean, hell, Henry Winkler, one of the sweetest guys in the world, could come out on stage and like tell some of his good material.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd still boo him off the stage. That's the kind of crowd that he was dealing with one night in Philadelphia. He goes up on stage and goes on this epic, heroic rant that will live in the annals of comedy history forever. He goes up there and he's like, "Hey, Philadelphia, all your heroes are fake. You know how I know that? You have Paul Revere. Nobody talks about Israel Bissell. Oh, and you celebrate Rocky Balboa, a fictional boxer, when you got fucking Joe Frazier, one of the best of all time. Yeah, you ever eat a Philly cheesesteak? It's like eating fucking diabetes personified. You people are fucking worthless.
Ooh.
I mean, he's like, I hope all of you go home and you get cancer in your assholes. I hope you all go home and you get cancer in your assholes.
Wow.
He goes on this heroic, epic tirade, and by the end of his epic rant, the crowd is cheering him. The crowd is applauding him and just like, you are a god. They were just bowing down, you are a god. And every comedian that was there that night, they always looked at Bill as like a godsend from then on. The only person that I've heard of that's ever done that and like got the crowd back over on their side is Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that sounds
Jim
about right.
Carrey was performing at I forget which club it was, but the crowd was having none of his shit. They were just like, there were people like heckling him the whole time, and he's just like,
so this was the late 90s.
Oh yeah, and it was actually I think early in his career, after early 90s, late 80s, I think.
Wow.
And he actually stands up on stage and he wins this crowd over a 45-minute show. He was only supposed to go on for like 10 minutes.
They're just like, no, we're not giving him the light. No, just let him go.
No, and he was going so good. No one else wanted to go on. Like the stage crew was just like, Jim, come on. And the other comedians come up and they're like, no, let him do this. He's doing it. Watch. And he does it. And then after he wins the crowd over, he bows to them, and then he dresses up in an outfit. Nobody recognizes him. He sneaks out behind the rest of the crowd and goes up to the piano that's in the back of the thing, and he starts playing a song, and he improvises like, I hate all of you with a steaming passion. I hate every single one of you. I hope you all die. And just like swoons them. And then he actually heard like someone up front who was like the man up front in front of the piano. He heard the manager look at the manager looked at him and said, "You are a god." And it's just like, when you win over a crowd like that, like Bill Burr won it over by shitting on them. I mean, profusely, relentlessly shitting on them. And then you look at Jim Carrey, who wins them over by doing his thing and just making people realize that what he was doing was funny, and then he lets them have it at the end by swooning them with this improvised this improvised easy listening piano jam.
Yeah.
It was like, what the hell? Some people just have that, dude. Some people have that.
It's true.
And there's some people that when hecklers get shut down by their own crowd, like the crowd is in such high support. That's what happened with Eddie Murphy on Delirious. When Eddie Murphy was recording Delirious, people were yelling out in the crowd, like telling him to do his characters from Saturday Night Live. It's like
that's not why he's here.
It's like, dude, James Brown. Like, this girl would not shut up, and all of a sudden she yells out one more time. She's like, "Do Mr. Rob." Like Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, and all of a sudden, I think it was Charlie Murphy. It was Charlie Murphy out in the crowd.
Oh no!
Charlie Murphy actually yells at the crowd, "Shut up, bitch!" And then the whole crowd just explodes, just with laughter and just applause. And Eddie actually dropped the microphone. He was laughing so hard.
And he's just like,
he's dead on stage. He's like,
no.
He's dead on stage. But oh man, so comedy is such a vicious game, and if you don't have the skin for it, sometimes it can eat you alive. I've seen like comedians bomb. I've been to some comedy clubs, like some clubs around here where they do open mic night, and they either get no response or the crowd just completely turns on them. Like, okay, there was actually, and whenever the crowd does turn on you and you win them back, there was actually this comedian. It was actually part of the Try Not to Laugh challenge one that we did.
All right.
It was this comedian who was up on stage, like young looking guy with nerdy glasses. He was working the nerdy shtick.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden he goes, I remember the first time I had sex, and this girl out in the crowd goes, "Last night." And then,
I remember that.
And then all of a sudden, like, the crowd's laughing. He lets the crowd get their laugh out. And actually, they didn't show this in the Try Not to Laugh challenge, and I'm actually pissed because I thought it was actually even funnier with what he said after. And then she, the laughter subsides and everything, and he's standing up there, and he's like, I'm glad you remember. Hey, I'm glad you remembered. I paid you enough. And he actually touched on it later on. He was like, oh, by the way, it was $5. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, for those of you interested, it was $5. Have a good night. And just drops the mic and just puts the mic back in the stand,
everybody.
bows and leaves. And comedians, he would under any other circumstance, if he would have said almost anything else, he would have bombed. He would have bombed, and he'd have never made a recovery.
Yep.
But because he knew how to get the crowd back on his side, he turned it around. And I love it when they do that. I love it. I love it so much. But all right. So we've been going now for 20 minutes
on a 5-minute video.
On less than a 5-minute video. So yeah. We're going to call it here, but that was Bill Burr. How you know the N-word is coming.
I miss Micah.
Oh, if Micah were here, I wonder what he'd say.
Well, if Micah were here, we'd have gotten through more videos than we have by now.
Well, you know what Micah would have probably said in this? He'd probably say what he normally says. Taxation is theft. Good night, everybody.
Dang it, Nate.